Fundraising is the gentle art of teaching the joy of giving. Hi, I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz. This is the first day from the Fundraising School, and I am delighted to welcome one of the Fundraising School's most accomplished alumna, Jennifer Oyer. Jennifer is the Chief Joy Officer of Community Impact Advisors, headquartered in her hometown of Honolulu, where her consulting practice is based on the Fundraising School's definition of fundraising. And Jennifer, what a delight to have you with us on the Fundraising School's podcast.
Aloha, Bill. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, what a delight. And you attended the Fundraising School and earned your certificate in fundraising management, right?
I did, yes. In 2019 is when I got my certificate.
And during that time, you heard our school's definition of fundraising is the gentle art of teaching the joy of giving. And there's something about that definition, especially how that definition concludes, that truly has inspired you. Can you help our audience understand that, please?
Yes. Well, I will never forget the first time that I heard this quote in my Principles and Techniques of Fundraising course at the Fundraising School. And I was in my first major gifts position at the law school here in Hawaii, and just having a hard time connecting to our constituents because their work, working with attorneys, their work just seemed so transactional. They were billing by the hour. So my visits with these attorneys were always they seemed like 36 minutes or less, or they're in 6-minute increments. And it was just counter to what I believed fundraising to be, where you're actually spending time with the donor and listening to their stories and building meaningful relationships with them. So when I heard fundraising is the gentle art of teaching the joy of giving in the course, it was like a light bulb went off for me. And I thought, how can I teach these attorneys what the joy of giving looks like? So I actually stopped meeting with them in their office and I started inviting them to campus activities where they could serve as guest lecturers or moot court judges. Whatever I could create and innovate, I did because I wanted to show them the impact that they were making on future attorneys through philanthropy. So this quote just inspired me, and it stuck with me in every position that I've held since then.
And that is why you are the Chief Joy Officer of your consulting firm. And we need to let our audience know Jennifer has an extensive fundraising career at the local level, in higher education, with an international faith-based relief organization, many different ways that Jennifer has fundraised. And Jennifer, as you've done so, and again, kind of taking us back to that inflection point, was all of your fundraising experience and training kind of lived experience, on the job training? What were you seeing in fundraising that maybe did feel quick, perhaps even transactional, that when you heard that fundraising truly can be and is the joy of giving and helping the donor see that you were able to see a clear distinction?
Right. Well, I always encourage fundraisers to provide storytelling opportunities to their donors. What kind of mission experience can you provide that allows donors to see and feel and touch and understand the impact that your organization that you're serving has an impact on the people that are in your community? So, yes, having a fund development plan is critical, but stewardship and how you create these donor experiences, I think, is what's important. And that's why the quote is so meaningful to me, because we actually want to provide these meaningful donor experiences so that people can see the impact. And if I can just share a story.
Yes.
In 2018, when I was at the Salvation Army, we had a Puna lava disaster. And the lava disaster was on Hawaii Island. And if you understand the Hawaiian Islands, you may hear on the news that some disaster is happening on one island, but it totally doesn't affect you if you're on another island. So, it's a island chain. And but because the emergency disaster was going to be long term, where we would be focusing on long term disaster recovery and not necessarily the response aspect, we wanted to show our donors what the economic effects were going to be for that particular area and the families and the small businesses that were there. So my team and I curated a group of our major donors, our LAPS corporate donors, our board members, and we took them on a day trip and flew a group of them over to Hawaii Island. So it's about an hour flight. And we were able to tour the lava site. We talked to small businesses, small business owners that were affected by the disaster. We talked to the families that were served by the Army, the Salvation Army. And yes, it was an investment of resources, and our team focused just on this project for about 2 weeks. But I truly believe that each person left knowing the work of what the Salvation Army did. They left with a personal story to tell, and I still hear about that story of going over to Hawaii Island to this day. And we received multiple six-figure gifts after that because we created a mission experience or a really meaningful donor experience for those people that were there. So I share that to say that it doesn't have to your donor experience doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. Fundraisers are creative and innovative, but just creating these donor experiences to steward and cultivate, and most importantly, thank your donors is critical to success.
Thank you for sharing that story with us, Jennifer. And it really demonstrates how those donors then could feel joy by observing and witnessing the lava disaster site. They then knew in very real ways how they and their donations could have a true impact, could make a real difference. And from that is derived the joy, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
And so as you consult with nonprofits now, you gather all your expertise and your training and your abilities and your successes, and you are now available to consult with other nonprofits. What do you see? Does the fundraiser get this, but they have to persuade the CEO or some of the board members? Is there some hesitancy on fundraising and they don't realize they're bringing joy to the donor with this opportunity? What are you observing, and what are some of the common ways that you're helping nonprofits and fundraisers understand that they truly are bringing joy to their donors?
That's a great question. And I think it's an ongoing struggle for many nonprofits. But I think what I can encourage leaders of nonprofits is to think about your ecosystem. Think about the people that are on your team and in your community and get them engaged in the work that you're doing. So whether it's your CFO, which is really important because they probably are a part of approving your budget, right? Get them involved and have them a part of your fund development strategic planning process so that they can actually understand that you're not just having multiple lunches or coffee time or throwing a party just for the heck of it. You're doing it because you're strategically moving these donors through the donor engagement cycle. And, this quote is foundation to which I've built my consulting firm because I share with my clients that when you stop thinking about fundraising as revenue and goals and start thinking of it as building these meaningful relationships, it changes your focus on how you do things and how you interact with your different constituent groups. Your donor conversations begin to change because you're starting to really ask the questions that connect the donor's passion to the needs of the organization. And how we develop our fund development plans and how we build trust with our donors when we properly steward and cultivate these meaningful relationships, one can't help but feel pure joy when making a gift. And so I would just encourage people, get different constituent groups involved in the work that you're doing so that they can see it and experience it and understand the importance of investing resources into fundraising.
And when we develop those long-term relationships and help all of our colleagues see that we're developing those long-term relationships with donors, that's when the joy is maximized, because we're taking time to get to know those donors and their philanthropic values and motivations and the impact they want to have. And of course, there are a myriad of reasons why people donate, but when we help meet them at those reasons, they experience joy. Something, by the way, that's been confirmed scientifically in the psychological research. Jennifer, I want to ask you, as we record this interview, a lot of folks are nervous. Could be described as a challenging season. People wonder about the economy. People wonder about the political climate. People wonder about international relations and things like this. And I remember when COVID first started, we were getting a lot of calls at the fundraising school. Should I still fundraise? Should I still be reaching out to my donors during this time? It's so difficult. And our advice was absolutely continue reaching out to your donors with that fundraising case for support. Check in with them, see how they're doing, let them know about some of the challenges you're having as well. But at the very least, you're bringing them some good news amongst all the heaviness of COVID with the impact your nonprofit is still having. And I bring that up in the context of is now we're in this challenging season right now. How do you see this definition and understanding of fundraising, of bringing joy to donors, perhaps being even more important now in days like these more than ever?
Right. I truly believe that when you remain unwavering in your mission, make your case for support, and have built meaningful relationships with donors, and you ask, people will give and they will support you even during difficult times. And now, even more so, I believe that, you know, with what's happening with the administration and the nonprofits being affected, um, having come out of COVID, or nonprofits should not be ashamed or be afraid to ask for support. Never make assumptions for your donors that this is a difficult time for them as well. Share your need, share the impact that your organization is making within the communities that you serve, and invite people in to help support your work. And I feel that nonprofits and fundraisers are resilient, and just like COVID, we will get out of it. And I think many nonprofits will emerge even stronger.
Can you describe the joy you feel when a nonprofit you're working with gets it? You're teaching them about the joy of giving and they have that aha moment. What does that feel like to you?
Yeah, it's awesome, of course. Just recently, I had a text message from one of my clients, and we've been kind of strategizing about this one donor for a while and her approach. And the donor had made a $25,000 gift, and she had the hardest time getting a visit with her. The donor just didn't want to meet. And so I said, just send her a handwritten thank you note, sharing your appreciation and gratitude for the gift, and let her know the impact that she's making. I guarantee you that's going to have a positive effect on her. And sure enough, 1 week later, the donor called the executive director and said, I'm ready to meet with you. I would love to get together with you for coffee. And it was because of that handwritten note. And the donor made it a point to tell her that she had not received ever a handwritten note from an organization. So things when I hear things like that, it brings me joy. And also, um, when I experience how organizations treat me. So, for example, I established a scholarship endowment for my alma mater where I went to graduate school. And When I made my first pledge payment, I told the VP of advancement, I never thought I'd be so happy to write a $10,000 check. But it's because I knew the impact that this gift was going to make and have on future students. And it just brought me so much joy. And when my alma mater, sends me thank you notes from the students that are receiving my scholarship, when I can go on campus and actually meet them face to face, that's what truly brings me joy. And that's the kind of experiences that nonprofits need to provide to their donors.
Experiencing joy as a donor, teaching the joy of giving to her clients, and serving as a chief joy officer for the entire fundraising profession. Jennifer Oyer, thank you so much for being our guest here on the Fundraising Schools podcast.
Thank you so much.
Every single one of our courses, more than 24, in person and online, starts with that definition. And we just want to be grounded in that definition before we teach anything else. And we also help our course participants know that if there are those in your organization who are hesitant to fundraise, take them to that definition. I feel sorry for people who don't get to fundraise because we are in the joy delivery business. More than 24 courses, 5 different certificates. We also can come to you with customized training that meets your specific needs. And we also have our quarterly webinars and these weekly podcasts. All of our knowledge is gathered in our textbook, Achieving Excellence in Fundraising, the book now out in its 5th edition. So glad to have Jennifer Oyer with us on our podcast here, the First Day Podcast from the Fundraising School, produced by our Emmy Award winner, Mike Anthony, also by Jennifer Boffman, CFRM. I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz, and now you are more fully informed on this first day from the Fundraising School.